Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
And welcome to the August 12th, 2022 meeting of the East Lampeter Township Board of Supervisors. There is no member of the board on Zoom tonight. All are present in the room. To my right is Roger Wood. To my far left is Mike Thornton, Ethan Demi, Vice Chair Corey Meyer, all joining me in the room this evening. We are joined by staff this evening. I guess I could introduce you to all three Charlies. We have Charlie Thomas, Colin Wade. Good to see you, Colin. Aaron Hitchens, Stephanie Leakway, correct, Stephanie? No, Kevin. Hey, Kevin behind.
And Chief Zerbich. You just skip half the step.
Who's not. Chief Zerbich. Okay, so if you would all please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There are agendas at the back of the room. There is also a sign-in sheet. If you're here this evening and you haven't signed in, please do so before you leave. We do need that for the public record. Item number 3 is public comment. Anyone from the public that would like to address the Board of Supervisors this evening for non-agenda items only. Not the public, non-agenda items. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Before we get to our consent agenda, let's just take a moment if I could during public comment time to recognize an individual, significant person who passed away this past week. On Wednesday, August 10th, 2022, John Espenshade died. John was a dedicated, committed, hardworking, honest, and intelligent professional who served Lancaster County, Central Pennsylvania, and all residents and businesses of our region as a legal professional for over 40 years. I personally worked with John on numerous initiatives over the past 25 years. As a member of the selective body, I am grateful for John's efforts to help us identify and win a $500,000 state grant for our streetscape multimodal project along the highway. As I learned of the news of John's untimely and sudden death last week, I was reminded of the brevity of our lives and the great value of spending our lives in service to our community, our families, and our country. In his 72 years, John Espenshade was the embodiment of a life of service to others. And we also remembered upon our parting in this life in a similar way that John Espenshade was. I thank John for his service to this county, this region, to this community. I thank him for his friendship and for his life commitment to those family and his community. Okay, 4A, we have our consent agenda. Approval of the August 15th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting agenda. That's the agenda for this evening. Will be approval of the minutes of Monday, August 1st, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And 4C, approval to pay invoices small funds for a total of $392,688.29 The number of items of note I would like to bring up to the attention of the public is $131,580 to Mark Paving Incorporated for 2022 oil and chip projects. $58,219.94 to Alpha Space Control Incorporated for 2022 road striping. $18,228 for LASA, the Lancaster Area Sewer Authority, for our second quarter sanitary sewer transmission. $11,107 Whitmer Fire Company for vehicle insurance reimbursements. Is there anyone from the public who has comments on any of the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motions, Kodi, second by Keith. Questions or concerns from the board? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 5, old business 5A, we have a request for financial security reduction. S subdivision number 2020-13, 289/290 Clearview Road. Is there anyone here on this project? Okay, so we've had the township engineer is requesting reduction. Remaining balance of $11,983.50.
Sure.
Interested gentlemen.
Motion to approve the reduction based on the DMA letter of August 5th.
Second.
Questions or concerns? Hearing none, in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 5B, a request for financial security reduction for the Krills subdivision. That would be 2016-25, 2009 Meadow Ridge Drive. Security reduction would take it down $50,083.55 to $10,965. Anyone here? I'll be happy to see. Okay. None, is there a motion?
Make a motion to reduce the Krills 2009 Meadow Ridge Drive to the remaining balance of $10,965.39.
Second.
By Roger, second by Mike. Questions or concerns? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 5C, we have a request for time extension. This is in reference to the agritourism zoning. We've seen this before, gentlemen. You know that both the Lancaster County Planning Commission's notes and also our own staff notes continue to raise concerns. There is certainly an issue with the definition of a farm in our zoning amendment. We don't have an updated set of terms and definitions from the applicant on this. So where does it stand now?
Correct, but we have not seen the most. There are. There are many concerns about those amendments. I'm sure that based upon our understanding of what we actually want to do, that cure those issues through this text. So our preference would be that we should be denied. You decide.
Thank you, Rob. Some of us have been on this one a couple times. This goes back to 2016, is that what I just said? 2016.
I'm not sure. Well, there was a much older proposal for a different location, which was the same people, but for this location, it's more recent than that.
Yes.
Much more recent.
That was the previous. But you know, we've been now several times we've had requests. What are your thoughts?
So just clarification from staff. So they paid some sort of fee to get the original request on the docket, correct?
That's
The original. And if we do deny it and they do reapply, they would pay again. Is that correct?
That's correct. Their escrow account has been used in full and actually beyond the total of the escrow account at this point.
Okay.
In addition, staff has met with them and reviewed the document numerous times. So both the application and the escrow accounts are completed.
It's helpful.
Another question on process here. So the public hearing is scheduled for now. So we have two options. One is if we deny the request to reschedule, we would then have to open the hearing. And then, what do we have all the things in place to have a public hearing today?
Their original request was for a time extension to have a public hearing August 15th. That was at the March meeting, I believe, of the board. And so they've asked for a time extension again till the end of the year, basically December 5th. And so if you deny the time extension, you're denying the application.
Okay,
It
so we're not
was not-
denying, so technically, we're functionally denying, but we're just denying the time extension because we're not holding the public meeting that's scheduled for today. That would be scheduled for today if we had scheduled it.
Right, it was not scheduled, it was not advertised as a public hearing.
So the motion wouldn't be to deny the application. Because that would have to take place in a public hearing. It would be denied it.
That-
The applicants.
Yes.
For the time extension, for the public hearing. I mean, we can certainly make a motion, what it does, for anything. The one that the applicants looking for is, would you give us a time extension?
So if we take no action, it just goes, they would have to reapply. Or would we have to take action?
I think it would be better if the board did take action either way.
May I ask when this project was first introduced to the board?
Fall of 2021 was our first introduction, and I think that was an informal introduction by the applicant.
March was when it first,
I'm sorry.
I think it was beginning of the year,
Of
this year. And when we first saw documents.
I
Right.
believe they came in with a formal application in February of this year.
Yes,
So we would have seen something last fall.
and you're saying, Tara,
We didn't see anything
we've had
about staff
meetings with
saw it.
them and discussions about
We
this
have
amendment.
both in this room with the board and with staff.
Before you ask the question about the fees the applicant has paid, what would happen with those fees, staff was said. The applicant, if there was a motion to deny the time extension, then in fact, end this applicant's process. Their fees have already been paid for this. They don't make it.
Right. And staff also made the point, the seats just don't go in a coffer and just, sit there. We do work, right? We spend money, and it sounds like, those fees that were collected have been used and more, we don't go back to the person asking, with the application for more money. We assume it's going to be around an amount, and it sounds like we've spent a lot of time and effort on this, so.
That statement is correct for the application fees, but for the escrow fees, there's additional billing that will be done if it goes beyond the amount that was deposited.
Understood. Thank you. Did you have a question? Sorry.
Yep, I mean, it's based on the letter here, they're looking at amending this and then resubmitting it to the LCPC and then bringing it back to us. So it's essentially a new application. So I'm in favor of denying. I'll make a motion if you'd like. I'll make a motion to deny the time extension for based off the letter from August 1st, 2022. So make a motion to deny that time extension.
So the motion on the table is to deny the time extension.
Second.
Okay, so this is motion seconded by Corey. Okay, comments, questions? Comments, questions, public? None. Okay. Motion on the tables. I want to understand the motion. Mike?
Yeah, I would just say, it sounds like there's been a lot of work into it, and as you just mentioned, Ethan, it looks like it's really coming all full circle again anyway, so it's perfectly willing to look at that again, so.
All right. Those questions, comments done? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, 6A, Calico Creek Plan Development Plan number 22-06, 2335 Lincoln Highway East. Ralph.
Believe the applicant's present.
David. Good evening. Come to the mic if you would. I have to ask you to speak directly into that mic. Parents best onto the recording. Thank you. And come up to state your name and the organization. you're with. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Todd Schoaf with Pioneer Management.
Hold that thought. Actually, just pull right out of the. Perfect. That way.
Thank you.
Walk over there. Thanks.
So again, my name is Todd Schoaf with Pioneer Management. With me this evening is Mr. Randy Martin. He's the owner of Calico Creek Home. Calico Creek Home is located at 2335 Lincoln Highway East. And it's a home goods, furniture, decoration retail store, which consists of about 12,000 square feet. The Martins are looking to expand that existing building by approximately 3,990 square feet. And that expansion would strictly be for additional warehouse space. They currently store some of their merchandise offsite for efficiency purposes, as well as reducing vehicular traffic to and from the track. It'd be more economical for them to construct the expansion and bring everything onto the current track itself. To do that, however, they do have to purchase additional property from the Comfort Suites Motel, I should say hotel, located immediately to the north of that tract. So there is a sales agreement in place to purchase approximately 0.8 acres added to the subject tract, which will get the overall subject tract to an acreage of about 2.07 acres. The zoning district is C3, and the minimum lot area for that zoning district is 2 acres. So currently, the existing lot is non-conforming as it relates to size. In addition, it's non-conforming as it relates to meeting the maximum impervious coverage in the zoning district, which is 70%. They're a little over 70% now. So by adding the additional acreage, they will be over the minimum lot size, and they will also be under the maximum impervious surface. As I stated before, there is a sales agreement in place, and that agreement is coming pretty close to fruition here. So it's our hope this evening that we could ultimately receive conditional final plan approval along with the approval of the multiple waivers that we've requested. We are in receipt of David Miller's Associates review letter dated August 3rd. It's a very clean letter. There's really only 2 outstanding items. One is for the letter of credit amount, which has been recommended for approval by the township engineer. And the Martins are speaking with their lender to get that letter of credit in place, making the assumption, of course, that we would get conditional approval this evening. The only other outstanding comment is to update the cover sheet to list the approvals of those waivers, if so granted this evening. So we can do that, obviously, if so approved. David Miller Associates recommended approval of all 13 waivers. There's only one waiver where it's a conditional approval. That conditional approval is for the waiver of preliminary plan processing. And it's conditioned upon providing all associated information relating to the preliminary plan itself, which we believe we have done. We are in receipt of the PennDOT HOP for the sidewalk relocation. We are in receipt of the Conservation District approval. We're in receipt of the water capacity approval from the city, along with the design approval. And we also have the emergency provider, Lafayette Fire Company's approval as well. So it would be our opinion that it's a very clean letter, very clean plan. It'd be our hope this evening that we can get conditional approval and approval of those waivers itself. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or go into greater detail if you so choose.
There is a question of sidewalk side, and obviously retaining wall is going to be required to accommodate some of those things. But move that, stabilize staff. We had some discussion with the applicant about that.
That's correct. Do you want to address that? Do you want us to?
I can. So
Okay.
as part of the corridor improvement plan, sidewalk needs to be located minimum 5 feet from curb face. And with our plan, we do propose a sidewalk being relocated within, or I should say beyond the 5-foot setback. To do so, however, if you're familiar with the track sits lower than Lincoln Highway East. So to accomplish that, pretty substantial retaining wall needs to be installed paralleling Lincoln Highway East. So the Martins, they proceeded to obtain a highway occupancy permit for that relocation by pulling the sidewalk outside of the right of way. They had a structural engineer do structural drawings to come up with a engineered wall design and ultimately received the HOP. So it's our understanding, and based off of the developer's agreement that was submitted and I believe currently being reviewed by the township solicitor, that as part of the corridor improvement, the township will install the retaining wall and the sidewalk. However, within the letter of credit provided by the applicant, the cost of that sidewalk will be included or is included in that overall cost. However, my understanding is whenever the corridor improvements plan happens, those improvements will be installed by the township. So the Martins are agreeable to that. I think the plan shows the relocation, the design of the retaining wall may be tweaked based off of township design, but the Martins are agreeable to that design.
So essentially, staff felt that that was a reasonable way to approach this. The applicant will be paying for the cost of the sidewalk, the township, the retaining wall. It's a substantial investment to expect for a 3,000 square foot addition to a commercial building. So we felt that was a reasonable way to approach this.
The streetscape project comes up in every one of the so we have this competition, whether it's when things in the background, the future, I appreciate it. We're also seeing the need for us and not to work together over the next number of years to make this happen. It doesn't so the property to justify the investment area on that.
It's great. Appreciate the developer working with staff. Thank you, staff.
So question, just technical questions, being approved in a motion, it would be conditioned also on the developer's agreement being executed.
Yes, that would be appropriate.
Thank you. Okay. So what I'm hearing on the board is the DMA letter of August 3rd. Has, and as you said, very keen. Put a number of points. There are 13 under waivers and modifications, one under subdivision, subdivision development. And that, of course, we've heard plan for security. It's reasonably accepting now. We're working through this.
Right.
I'm hearing perhaps in a motion we need to add another condition. Related to cost for the teacher, improvements to the sidewalk, or the township costs. Retaining walls that would have. See what the board thinks, okay?
Sure, thank you.
Yes. Royce.
I'll make a motion. We approve the final subdivision land development plan for Cocalico Creek. Based conditions on the township engineer's letter dated August 3rd, as well as conditioned on the execution of the developer's agreement that's been submitted to our solicitor.
Just to clarify,
Including
I think
the sidewalk.
I thought we were waiving the preliminary.
Yeah, you're approving a final plan.
Yeah, so, note number one, the waivers modifications.
It's conditioned on everything in this letter, which includes,
Will be granted with condition and don't response.
but we're approving the final.
Right. And inclusion.
That's in the
And the
developer's
developer's
agreement.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so we've got a motion on the table for moving to approve the DMA letter of August 3rd and to approve this as the final plan with two conditions. One for the retaining wall, township will manage the cost of that, and the applicant will cover the costs for future build out on site.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ethan, second by Mike. Questions or concerns, applicant? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Good
nice
luck.
evening. Thank you.
Thanks for your investment.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. A sweat inducing moment. Thank you, man. Thanks for the investment. Okay, letter number 6B. Dutch Wonderland Stormwater Management Plan number 22-09, 2249 Lincoln Highway East. Is there someone here on behalf of the applicant? State your name, Mr. Woodward, and speak in the mic.
My name's Thomas Whittington. Dutch Wonderland. I was supposed to have somebody else here.
We'll get you through this.
Well, I'll be, from what I understand, there's been some letters back and forth, and the most recent letter was from HRG with some requests. Rex told me that he doesn't see a problem meeting any of those questions that are on that letter. I believe there was a letter earlier that was from DMA, and I think those were all already.
We have a, as you just referenced, Thomas, we have David Miller Associates letter, who's the township engineer from August the 4th. And minimal items there, with stormwater management. Looks like, probable costs, for $32,010. And then you also referenced the HRG letter, of August the 12th. And, so at this point, you've seen that as well too.
Yes.
And don't have any issue with the notes on there. Looks like there are four notes and several sub-notes. Well,
Just to say that what Dutch Wonderland's doing is putting a concession stand in where some games currently exist and actually reducing the amount of impervious area that's on the property through the removal of asphalt as well as the change in the building. So clean letters, I guess.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
You tell me.
We all go through. All right, let's see what the board decides on. All right. Thank you very much. And when you're in.
Make motion to approve the Dutch Wonderland Stormwater Management Plan. Submitted conditioned on the township engineer's letter as well as the sewer authorities letter as well.
Okay, motion by Lisa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Roger. Okay. Questions from the applicant? Or questions? Concerns? Okay, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you for making your investment. Thank you. Okay, 6C, we have a time extension for township review and action for the Zook Yoder Ash Lot 5 Land Development Plan number 22-13. Anyone here? We have, yeah. Sorry, got through. Applicant has reached out and they're requesting time extension until February 28, 2023. Questions or concerns? And
Motion to accept time extension for township review and action through February 28th, 2023 for the Zook Esh Yoder Lot 5 land development.
Second.
But only second by Mike. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6D, time extension for township review and action, 525 Greenfield Road Land Development Plan, number 22-14. Is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant? None. All right, so once again, requesting a extension, the applicant is requesting extension to December 15th, 2022. Motion.
Make a motion, 525 Greenfield Road. Granting the person extension to December 15th, 2022.
Motion by Rogers, second.
Second.
Second by Kodi. Questions or concerns? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6E, time extension for township review and action, 624 Willow Road Stormwater Management Plan, number 22-12. Looks like the applicant is asking for deadline extension for 90 days, which would take us to what date? Say on the left. 90 days from
Now.
today.
Right.
90 days from today. So a motion.
Make a motion, we grant the 90-day time extension for review of the annual by the proposed stormwater management plan expansion.
A motion by Ethan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Questions or concerns? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Let's get through development projects. 7 action items. We've got a public hearing in reference to the proposed zoning ordinance amendment for a mixed use district. Right.
The board heard this informally and authorized us to go through the process. We've gone through the process of distributing the proposal to all the appropriate planning partners, giving them the necessary time to review and provide comment if they wanted to do so. Public hearing is scheduled for this evening to take any public input on the proposal. And the applicant's here. I don't know if you want to hear from the applicant to get a summary of what's in the amendment or any other discussion that they might want to offer before taking public comment. But I recommend you open the hearing and hear whatever you're going to hear, and then close the hearing before taking action.
Thank you, John. So we open the public hearing to have a discussion, listen to the public, listen to the applicant's request for an amendment to our zoning ordinance, specifically in the mixed use district. The applicant has a little over 2 acre parcel. There's an existing mixed use building and a bank. Drive through the one Philadelphia Pike near Campus Drive. The applicant is on board to the board to ask for us to consider amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow them to do things that perhaps does not allow for.
Good evening. Claudia Shank. I'm an attorney with McNeese Wallace and Nurek. I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, which is Campus Shops LP. I'm joined by Jay and Scott Provenzo.
Gentlemen.
As your chairman mentioned, the property that was the catalyst for this amendment is located at 1625 Old Philadelphia Pike. It's roughly 2.5 acres. It's in the mixed use zoning district. It's improved with a 4-story mixed use building, which is known as the Squares at Bridgeport. The upper 3 floors of that building are residential. The first floor was designed for a mix of retail and office. There's also a bank pad site on the property. Was formerly a bank, is still leased to a bank, but the bank is not operational at this time. And that bank does have drive-through lanes. We proposed a text amendment, or are proposing a text amendment based basically on the decline in demand for retail and office spaces that we've experienced since COVID. Jay and Scott can speak more particularly to the challenges that they've had leasing the first floor space in that building, but it's been challenging. There is a personal training facility that's using some of the space now, but the majority is vacant. So all of the amendments that we're talking about this evening are designed to facilitate the redevelopment of the first floor of that building, and then also the redevelopment of the bank pad site, which again is not being. In terms of the chronology for this text amendment, we started talking with staff in early 2022 about a potential amendment to try to redevelop some of the uses on the property. It made a formal presentation on March 8th. We're in front of the board for a presentation on March 21st. We then submitted a formal petition with comments from staff. Lancaster County Planning Commission recommended approval of the amendment on August 1st. That was a staff level review that was completed. And then we were before your planning commission last week, and they likewise recommended approval. The amendment itself allows for a number of additional uses in the mixed use district, subject to particular criteria. So I'll just go through those individually. First, it permits a financial institution by right with or without drive-through lanes. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we currently have a bank site exactly approved of non-conforming use before the property was rezoned to MU. So we think it makes sense to bring that into compliance in case there would be interest from a bank in the future in leasing that building. We're also adding a commercial recreation facility to the zone. Currently, a gym use is not permitted. As you heard me mention, we do have sort of a personal training facility, but we think that a gym would make a lot of sense in this location if there was ever any interest in that. So that is a use we're proposing to add. One of the main drivers behind the petition was the idea of doing self-storage in the first floor of the building. We talked about this with you last time and presented, I think, even some pictures of another location where this has been done. It's not like a traditional self-storage facility, not a drive-up facility. Really, from the exterior of the building, you would not know that it's being used for self-storage. So sort of a single point of entry, hallways within to lockers or smaller units. We think this may be attractive to our tenants, but it would be available to others as well. And there are a number of limitations that the ordinance puts on this type of self-storage use. So the goal here is, I think everyone agrees that new construction self-storage facilities, drive-up self-storage facilities wouldn't be appropriate in the mixed-use district. So it's only permitted as a conversion of an existing building. There's a maximum gross floor area of 10,000 square feet. May only be located on the first floor of a fully enclosed building. It can only occupy 75% of the gross area of the first floor. So you've got two limitations there in place in terms of area. There's no outdoor storage. Again, has to be accessed through a single point of entrance into a hallway system. No storage of boats, campers, or RVs. No storage, as you would expect, of illegal or perishable materials or hazardous substances, and a requirement to provide appropriate utility service. The next use that we're proposing to add to this district would be a restaurant with or without drive-through service lanes. There's one caveat to that, and that's that the drive-through service lanes would need to exist as the date of the amendment. So essentially no new drive-through restaurants in this district, but if you have an existing drive-through, of which I think we can only think of 2 others perhaps in this district, you would have the ability to sort of switch back and forth between types of uses. So from a bank to a restaurant, for example. And that carries over to the next item that we've added, which is the retail bakery. Again, would be permitted at an existing drive-through with a maximum of 2 lane. So a coffee shop at this location, but no new drive-throughs within the district. We did make a number of changes to this proposal based on the initial amendment that we had discussed with you. One of the most significant changes that the recommendation of staff was limiting restaurant and bakery drive-throughs to existing drive-through facilities. So not opening up the district to more drive-throughs. And the other item, which was really at the direction of the Planning Commission, was capping the storage unit space, not just at 10,000 feet, but also at a certain percentage of the gross floor area of the building, the first floor of the building, 75%. To ensure that there would be some opportunity for retail and office. And Jay and Scott can speak a little more specifically to what they're looking to do in this location, but it's not their intent to convert this all to self-storage. There still will be the personal training facility and perhaps some opportunities for additional tenants as well. So with that, by way of background, I'm going to hand it over to Jay just to provide a little bit of additional feedback about this plan.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to come before you today. I think I mentioned a little bit of background. I'm Jay Provenza, one of the partners at the Square Bridge Book. You guys know it as Campus Shops. Project started back in, I think it was 2019, somewhere around like late 2019. Kodi came before you and asked for the opportunity to do a mixed use project. At that time, there were several concerns, one being a turn lane on the property that was pre-existing. So I'm happy to say with your help, we were able to work together. And we got that turn lane intact. As Claudia mentioned, we're looking at the possibility of expanding. The last 2+ years, we all certainly changed retail, and there are plenty of properties available in the market at better locations for retail at this moment. Mill Creek Shopping Center. I don't have the full list, but we're just kind of doing a quick look. Mill Creek, Kissel Hill, the Cross Shopping Center, the shops, just in a few. There's generally a lot of small office and retail space available. So looking at that, we haven't had a lot of employees. We work with Bennett Williams, Jeff and Bennett Williams. Bennett Williams is kind of the retail go-to. They have a lot of connections, a lot of retail tenants, a lot of national chains. And unfortunately, we've been getting very interest from things like gyms, which we were able to work with you guys. Powertrain as a person, Powertrain operates their business. I'm going to say similar to a physical therapist, if you will, like to make an appointment to come in for a specific period of time. And that's been going very well for them. But a lot of our interest has been from things that the gym, vape shop, some small office. We've had inquiries for car wash. I don't know why, a gas station, we can't put a gas station at sites. That there are kind of inquiries that we've been getting. Of course, the gym, the chains of gyms, using it for fitness type gym. We up until this point, we did it for the virtual company. So that's why we put that back in. And given the area of the location, the desire of the township with the Bridgeport project to have walkability, I certainly have to get gym or recreational facility. Which fit in. So that was the first piece for the gym. The storage units, we had tents, we had 30 units there. All these stuff going really well. We've had some tenants request storage space. Of course, as people move around, they have more stuff, need a place to put it. Nationally, as you guys are probably aware, storage has been growing. You're starting to see storage facilities backfill large complexes like the old Kmart, places like that. But they're also starting to backfill some shopping centers as well, which is where we got this idea of doing a smaller self-storage facility with kind of secure access. Most of the units there are probably going to be between 5 by 10 and 10 by 10. Not going to be very big, a little bit narrow hallways to discourage larger items. Of course, as Claudia mentioned, the plan with holes in the recyclables for parking and sit down inside. But with that, we'll also see probably a lot less trips, a lot less usage. 5 to 10 trips per week is what the guys are telling us to expect once it's occupied. Our goals here, if we proceed with that, we have 11,000 feet of retail space. Overall building size, 4,000 square feet, and then another 3,500 feet for all, which is with the exception of 1,700 or so power has been booked. We anticipate we'll be looking at probably keeping about 3,500 or so, 3,000, 4,000, however it breaks out for the spaces for retail use, and then maybe 5,000 or 6,000 square feet for the self-storage. With that group, I think we're going to be able to capture probably 25-30% of our residents who are looking for storage. The nice thing about storage in this capacity, this type of fit out, of course, as the Bridgeport project continues, there's always, it's a very easy conversion down the road back to retail because all of the shells, but all the improvements will be with that, that's all I have regarding the space. We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys for the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have in terms of a presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Appreciate the applicant's creativity, trying to find uses. Putting their, making the investments that you guys have over the past years helped us to move the community in the direction of infill and you know, a mixed use zone and crossroads community, Bridgeport, all of them were attractive. So trying to work with you to help you guys be financially successful. Because you're working with us to make an investment. Thoughts or concerns about applicants' presentation? Public. Anyone from the public? Or anyone in the call? We don't chat.
There's no chat and no emails.
Staff.
Colin, you want to offer anything?
I just want to say that the nice thing about this text amendment is that it's kind of tailored to this property, so it's not going to have a ripple effect to the rest of the MU zone. And like Claudia said, there's only like the Burger King and a pizza shop possibly that could be affected, but again, 2 other properties if that. So, thank you.
Right, as Colin said, you know, the board spoke about the Bridgeport plan, and so that was important to keep pedestrian movement in there and not put a number of additional drive-through, and the applicant definitely listened to that.
That's great.
I like the way it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and really the neighborhood and, you know, trying to serve those people and then attract economic activity. It kind of has it all. And it doesn't seem like it will have a ripple effect. It's detrimental.
I'm sure.
percent.
Yeah, currently we're full. We leased those units by floor, fairly quickly, about 3 months. Really haven't, that I've heard of, we work with Boyd Wilson, a professional management company. And they've done a phenomenal job taking care of the place. So we, as of this date, we really haven't heard anything. So
How many tenants?
there's 30 units. And then there's 11,000 feet of retail.
Okay, nothing else from the board. We can close the public hearing. Okay, all right. It's a public hearing. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Jay. Appreciate
Thank you.
that. Yeah. Ralph, we have submitted this to our neighbors as well too, about township. So no comments, no further comments from them at this point.
Right. I think that's the only letter we got back, even though we did send it out to everybody else.
Correct.
Westland, Peter,
All the other adjacent municipalities would have received it.
and County Planning Commission, their letter, I think, is the applicant. First of all, I mean, very favorable comments here. You know, helping to fulfill, you know, the vision and goals of places 2040. So all very good, positive, encouraging comments. Okay. All right, thank you very much. That is the public hearing. Okay.
John, do we need to vote on closing that hearing?
We need to vote on closing. Oh,
I think the chairman can close it.
All right, so that's item number 7A. Item number 7B, we can take action on that if the board so wishes. So, gentlemen, anyone interested in proposing motion?
I think we should act on this soon as possible, just to take advantage of whatever other interest there could be because of this. And I'd make a motion.
Okay, let's go right ahead.
The motion that the East Lampeter Township zoning ordinance, Article 15 for mixed use zoning district, it's section 15020 A. The principal uses permitted would be amended to include new sections, and those sections are 15020 A7, 15020 A19, and 15020 A27.
Okay, motion made by Mike.
Second.
And second by Ethan. Okay, one motion.
Mike,
Ralph?
Yeah.
what were you reading from, Mike?
The proposed ordinance. Are those
And
numbers correct?
was that just section 1 that you were?
It was, okay, so all sections,
Or just say, just say the whole.
Just
This
say
document
as advertised?
as advertised, yes.
Second.
Yep, got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for amending that. Okay, motion by Mike, seconded by Ethan. Staff, good. Staff, understand? All right. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alonzo's.
Thank you, good luck.
Okay. 7C. We have need to authorize the distribution of the saldo for planning commission review and comment. So, Colin, I need to tell you to hold on to that one for speaking.
Okay, before you should be a memo. That it's the same memo I presented back in June and July. This acknowledgement tonight, if you wish to do so, will begin the 45-day comment period. Tentatively, we have this scheduled for adoption on October 17th. I'm not going to read through all the sections that were changed. Much of them are minor in nature. And as I said, a lot of these you've seen before. During the July meeting, though, there were 2 comments that the board made. The first one was regarding the mandatory sketch plan that we had proposed in there. We took that out. We deemed it was not necessary, being that we kind of already do that with other aspects of the process. The second one was park, open space and greenway fee in lieu, which was updated to include the assessed value modified by the common level ratio. So that was added. Those are two of the bigger items. Again, we pulled out all the technical specifications and details and put them in its own document. That way that can be updated as needed throughout the years.
So they Colin?
That's pretty good.
All right, so Colin pointed out, everything else we've seen, no?
Right, I was just gonna ask Colin to sort of go over the process now that would happen.
Sure. So if it's approved or approved to move forward tonight, I will send it out to all our planning partners as well as the Lancaster County Planning Department for their review. And then we wait.
45 days, get comment, schedule a public hearing, advertise it for board consideration, and we're sort of shooting at the second meeting in October at this point as the date when that would come back before the board for public hearing as well as consideration for adoption.
Colin, Ms. John?
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we need to vote to authorize? Yeah.
Please, yes.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to authorize distribution of the saldo for planning partners review and comments. Second.
Motion by Trees, second by Ethan. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries. Thanks, Colin. Okay, I've got Colin, part two. 7D. You're gonna announce the proposed revisions to the East Lancaster County Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan. Available to the public. You're gonna announce that, Mike?
You just did, so I don't have to. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, this is the Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan update. You should have another memo in front of you regarding this. We're currently under the 2018 and 2023 permit cycle. This PRP is for that cycle. I'm not going to go through each of these items, but basically we updated it to include new projects that we're looking to do. We got some approval from DEP to aggregate all of our watersheds, which helps us out tremendously. Again, this will go through a public comment period, 30-day period. We will be submitting this to DEP after that comment period, probably towards the end of September. And just, I'll go through a couple of the projects. One of the major changes was we added a bunch of ag properties where we'll be working with landowners to install ag BMPs. We also have Greenleaf, who's going to retrofit some of the basins, so we can get credit for that. We have High, they have numerous basins that they're going to retrofit, so we can get some credit out of those as well. We have the Hack campus as well as the community park, which is going to be a pretty big project with a stream bank restoration. And then we have I2 Capital, which we're working through. So we'll be getting buying some credit from them. So all in all, I think we're sitting very well to meet our goal. And if we're short on any of these projects, we have plenty on the list. So we're sitting pretty, and these projects will carry over to the next permit cycle. So
What's the length? What's the length of the next permit cycle?
it'll be another 5 years.
Another 5 years.
Yeah, the only question there is DEP isn't indicating at this point that we need to prepare for the next
Right.
cycle.
We don't have to
So-
submit an NOI at this point, which we typically would have to, but we don't know what the requirements will be yet, so we can't submit something on something that's not out there.
So this current permit cycle might go longer. And then we don't know what they'll do with the next one, make it shorter, make it 5 years again, do something different. So we're all sitting on pins and needles waiting for their decision there. So
The Greenleaf,
pack. Someone else, all their basic retrofits. Are we reaching out to that? Are they coming to us? Hey, we want to do this.
There's both, yeah. There's frequent communication between these parties and such and landowners and stuff, so that's a constant line of communication we have with a lot of landowners, so yeah, that's both sides. They need it for whatever they want to do on their property, we need it for credit, so it's a good partnership.
So the 12 properties that we heard about last meeting, were they generated by, what is it, I2? Or
Yes.
were they generated by township staff?
Those properties were part of the I2 capital that they
Okay,
took care of, yes.
so they identified them
Mhm.
and we do the design work, they do the design work.
We simply pay for the credit. They do all the work. We pay for some maintenance over a period of time, but we simply apply.
Okay,
That's the case with the I2 capital arrangement. With a project like Greenleaf, there's going to be an agreement between them and the township related to how that will happen, who's going to pay for what, how it's going to be maintained, what sort of credits they'll get in terms of stormwater fee, what sort of pollution reduction credits we'll get. So that'll happen for any of these projects that come about working with private landowners.
Great, thank you.
Okay. What we're waiting for, great anticipation. Is management report 8A, our 2023 budget discussion. Ralph, the floor is yours.
Great. As I mentioned briefly at your last meeting, we wanted to open up this opportunity to have kind of a high-level overview and discussion about looking forward into the 2023 budget, get some guidance on priorities from the board as appropriate through that process. I thought we'd start this evening by reviewing where we are currently with the 2022 budget and fund balances. I asked Kevin to come prepared to go over that information with you. We're focused on the general fund and the sewer fund simply because they're the two biggest operating funds that we have. There are certainly related financial issues to the other funds, which we can certainly talk about. But I'll ask Kevin to go into that now.
I was going to start with the sewer fund. Currently, we have a very healthy fund balance, approximately 4.9 million. Projecting even at the end of the year, the fund balance should be approximately 3 million, which is still a nice reserve. As far as their budget versus actual performance, anticipating the sewer fees that will reach our budgeted revenues. But overall, I'm anticipating our total sewer fund revenue to be maybe slightly lower because the tapping fees may not all happen this year that we were budgeting. The sewer fund expenditure total, we're expecting that the budget and actual will be approximately equal. I did want to point out the debt service costs, even though that looks very favorable. We have a $1.2 million principal payment that's due October 1st. Anybody have any questions about the sewer fund? For the general fund, currently a very healthy $7.4 million fund balance. At the end of the year, we're projecting it to be at approximately 5.2 million, which is still well in excess of the 18% fund balance policy that the board passed in 2017, I believe. As far as the budget versus actual, the real estate taxes, we're anticipating that we should exceed the budgeted amount slightly. Where we'll get some bump is on the transfer taxes, obviously with the real estate market. That's definitely going to be an excessive budget. The earned income tax revenue, currently we're exceeding the Lancaster County Tax Collection Bureau's receipts or estimates for receipts by about 10%. Obviously not sure if that'll hold, but I would imagine it at least hit budget. On the admissions tax, not real sure where that's going to end up. Thinking it should be close, but probably not reach budgeted revenue. Overall, for total revenue for the year, we're anticipating to reach the budgeted amount or maybe slightly higher. For total general fund expenditures for the year, the way things are going, it seems like we might exceed that total slightly, but right now I think we're in good position, but the way prices have been, it's hard to tell. We'll be able to keep it at or below budget. Any questions?
My only question was going to be about inflation and what your, where you think the most significant impact that would have if it continues as it's been.
Probably with vehicle fuel and also some IT purchases. And then there are some larger purchases that are planned. And depending on what the contract says, if we can hold them to that price.
How about the interest earnings? Since it was significantly up 1,000% almost.
Right. Yeah. With interest rates, we've been trying to keep most of the money in Pliget, and Pliget's rates have been amazing. I'm surprised they're that high. So we've been trying to keep as much as possible.
What rate are we getting with them?
What's that?
What is the rate?
Right now, the lowest level is, I saw that today it was like 1.87, and the highest, which requires you to keep the money in a little bit longer, was over 2.
How about the recycling performance grant? Looks like we're very much had a budget on that as well.
Yeah, that was a one-time receipt.
General grants?
I think so. I don't recall exactly.
That's what we're supposed to submit for.
We just throwing a line out there, 10 grand for grants or? Just come through, no records come through. You can point out the recycling performance grant. EA grants. Zero performance to $10,000 budget line.
So we got 25 last year.
We don't know what line item that's in.
I don't recall.
25 grand.
25 grand last year.
I got 25 grand there last year.
The 25 from last year was the truck scales.
Yeah, that was through
That's
Senator
what's-
Martin. That was a one-time thing as well. I'd have to go back through and look at the detail on the line item we didn't expect to get into a line item discussion tonight.
Which is the church. And even the interest earnings, exactly. That was the percent up on that. Nothing.
We'll get you an answer on that.
Here's P, shared it.
That is generally like the pension state aid.
So that usually becomes like a lump sum.
Becomes a lump
Yeah,
sum, yeah.
So it looks like. it's
And
all
then-
separate.
Yeah, I can get, because there's a few items that make up that 560,000. I can get
Probably
you the
fire
detail.
relief money in there,
Is that?
fire relief money in there.
Oh, yes, yes, yep.
And the public works being under on expenses, I'm assuming that's because of some of the open spots that we haven't been able to fill.
That and some purchases that haven't been completed yet.
That's good.
Thank you, Kevin. So unless there's other questions about that sort of current picture, I had asked all the department heads to sort of come prepared to talk about sort of the big issues that they're seeing and looking forward to next year. So randomly, we'll start with Charlie.
Since he's closest to the microphone.
Come on, man. You can grab that mic.
Nah, I got this one.
You can do your best, Johnny, first.
You're gonna get me started already, right?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I just got some stuff. The big purchase for PW is the tractor. That's supposed to get delivered in September, I think. So that's some of the monies that's missing out there. Some of the stuff we're looking at next year, again, this is all wish lists at this point. Staff's working hard at pulling numbers together, but playground equipment for Flory Park, we are just about at life's end with that, safety wise and everything. So that's about, we're guessing close to a $50,000 ticket item.
Are there grants for that, or?
The grants that I've seen so far is they come out like in July, but you have to spend them by the end of the year, but you don't know if you get them. That's the information I'm pulling in. Starting to look at a pavilion for Lafayette Park. Possibly smaller than the Clark Pavilion, which is at Flory, with restrooms though. We've been talking for the past couple of years, possibly purchasing a bucket truck. Everything we have in that public works building is 35-40 feet in the air. We rent equipment once a year, but we have to compile a list. So if stuff burns out, we've got to wait till we get a big list. We started looking at portable traffic signals for work zones. Being manpower short, it's tough. We're all flagger certified, state certified, so these portable traffic signals. The sewer building is on the books this year yet. That's another big construction project. We're hoping to be out to bid next week. We're real close with everything.
That's the cover over the dump pit in the back, which is
sewer
on
dump
the
pit.
campus plan.
Then we're looking at next year, the pole building, the 100 by 100 foot pole building, get some of that stuff out of the weather to make it last a little longer. Take care of the stuff now, but if we can make it last more, it'd be great. We're going to be continuing our paving projects through next year again. I'm also probably going to update our robotics. If you remember that program that we purchased a couple of years ago, we're about 4 or 5 years into that program. I want to update that since we paved a lot of roads, just see where we're sitting at with the our new fire alarm panel for both buildings. We can't get pieces and parts for what we have now. Tying a lot of stuff in there with the dry systems we're putting in over in the police side. So our fire alarm panel is about outdated, and we started looking into Gibbons Park upgrade. Parking lot, stuff like that. We either phase it out, bridge, walking trails. That's about what I had.
We'll talk about that here.
Gibbons Park? Okay, there'll be some front improvements, new entrance, possible exit out between the existing home and the mill. parking lot, 38 spaces. Is that what we're looking at?
Something like that.
Something like that. Walking trail. It'll be
It
on
would be on the west side of the creek.
where,
Where in relation to, the mill race?
East of the mill race.
yeah, well, if you remember where the pavilions were.
Yeah.
When it was the flea market, it's gonna be right in that area. But where the pavilions were is about the area it's gonna be going in. We're also gonna make a pool for the fire department, have a dry hydrant to the creek in case they get in, because with the water only goes to 896, we can give them a drafting site, help with fire protection, bridge over Mill Creek and walking trails on both sides.
Did you mention canoe launch?
No, I did not.
Um, um, So all of that gets paid for.
Right, that, you know,
I
that's,
couldn't keep up
those-
my pen.
those are decisions that the board has to make, but, you know, there are grant programs out there. We could pursue some grants to help with that.
As opposed to the board saying, let's float a $5 million bond and put all this stuff you just said into Gibbons, Lafayette, and Florida. In other words, I mean, Flory Park, the west side, Strasburg Place.
Yep.
Hasn't really seen an improvement since 96, you know, that all at the top of the hill.
Yep.
And I know Parks Board, you know, Regional Park Commission and things like that, but just, you know, recognizing that is it financially feasible, more cost effective? That is it worth investment? You know, is there this time to really kind of chomp at the investment of our parks and say, let's really do these?
Well, one of the things that was included in the regional park plan were conceptual plans for the development of Gibbons, as well as conceptual plans for the further development of Flory. So we have that planning level completed, and yeah, the next steps are the questions.
Yeah, we're waiting for we're getting the design done for Gibbons Park, so it's like, okay, what's the final total number? Or what's the number if we phase it out?
Maybe you can apply for grants.
Yeah.
Right.
I think part of that too, to piggyback off John's point with parks in general, and this goes back to the discussion we've had when we were looking at what's the fee in lieu of parkland, which is now updated in our saldo, is as our population, if we're planning on our population growing by a certain percentage point over the next decade, we expect new development to come in as well, and that's going to help fund it. But what's the allocation of our total general fund? What percentage should we be putting into regional recreation every year as part of our budgeting piece? And then do we then use that for saving up and doing the capital improvement, or do we use it for paying for debt service on a bond to do some of those all at once? But I think the bigger discussion is what percentage of our total general fund should be allocating towards our regional recreation.
We do that same thing within our municipality, not for our fire apparatus. We're intentionally establish, you know, years of obsolescence, turnover, reinvestment, percentages of investment per township versus fire companies. You know, can we come up with the same thing for parks?
If that's a priority for the board, you know, we can certainly come up with a variety of different options as to how to finance those priorities. The only other thing I was going to throw in with Charlie's, especially related to building, we've had requests to add ADA accessible doors to the front of the building. So that is something that we're going to be looking at.
Yeah.
I think
Come in the back door. And more employees. Trying to hire, and everybody's having the issue. But, yeah, I think when we moved into this building, I said my 20-year plan was to have 20 guys out in that public works building. We're at 11, 12. So looking for resumes. 2. I can get them, yeah. I actually did start getting a couple resumes right at the end of last week. So reviewing them now. But Yep. Yep. Anything else?
Thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm gonna go back to Colin and let him mention his items.
Okay, I have a few projects for the planning zoning budget. The first one is to continue the scanning project, if needed. We're pretty far into that already, so we'll see where we're at in December. The second one is the comprehensive zoning ordinance update. That's a major project that I want to undertake. The third one is a comp plan update. Should probably start looking into that possibly after the zoning ordinance update. And with that comp plan update, probably we want to do some type of housing study that would kind of feed right into the comp plan update. So continue scanning, zoning ordinance update, comp plan update, and maybe some type of housing study.
What would the housing study tell us?
They'll tell us what we have, what types of housing we have, where it's at, you know, it'll give us some hard numbers so we know. And that'll help us with the comp plan then.
So we'll also look future, based on, land on Millport Road, that's, zoned R2. How many potential units would be there as well? So would look future as well?
I'm not sure if it'd be future. It's kind of, it'll tell us what we have now. And then based on that, you would make decisions on where we want to be.
I think there's conversation around what a housing study would look like. So that is the goal, to have that conversation to project out, okay, what would we like to collect? What do we have at our disposal? What do we need to find? And then what does it tell us about our current situation? What does it look like going forward? That should be part of any kind of study.
Well, tied to Ethan's point, I mean, I'll use that area as an example near Flory Park. If we're going to have a pretty large development down on either side of Millport Road, fee in lieu, could hopefully fund some of the improvements to Flory. I think you made that point.
Yeah, but it's one of, if we're looking at a comp plan update, starting with here's where we already have a forward-looking piece, which tells us how many units we could have at what density levels, because we already have zoning. So we should start at a base level with here's what we have. Here's what's currently available as far as units, min and max, based off of the density requirements in the zoning. That's a math problem. And then we could say, all right, what's our strategy for housing? What type of housing at what mixes at what income points would we like to see? And then based off of the comprehensive plan and a housing strategy, what changes should we make to the zoning to accommodate that or make it in line? So if the density we can increase or decrease in R2, if we have pockets that are potentially available for development where we have infrastructure, we now can make adjustments to zoning based off of the strategy and the plan.
Colin, what was your number one listed?
Besides, it's the zoning ordinance update. Yeah. I had scanning that may or may not be complete by December. It most likely will, but if not, we'll want to continue that, finish that up.
That's scanning documents.
All the township property files, Saldo files, get that all digital. Yeah.
Related to the comp plan, I guess I might suggest that rather than an update, that we actually look at a new comp plan, 2025-ish. We'd be about 20 years since our current comp plan was done. So we've done updates, we've kept current, we've done what we need to do, but it might be time in the next few years to do a completely new comp plan.
Well, at least because of the large projects that we have going that will be close to being finished or finished by that time.
Yeah, that could certainly play a
Streetscape,
factor in.
Walnut Street, new housing, things like that. It's a new school.
The other related issue there is, right now we're involved in 2 regional comp plans. So if the desire would be to continue to do regional planning, then, we need to start probably pretty soon in laying the groundwork to do that. Many of the municipalities in the LAMC Growing Greener plan have already gone out and done their own individual new plans. So my suggestion, obviously up to the board, but we probably need to focus on the CV region and see if we can't do our comp planning in that region to continue that concept.
That's it.
How many staff?
I'm sorry. I'm good right now.
Oh. I was gonna say, come on, Charlie, just take it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Kevin, I just asked, was there anything that you wanted to contribute in that regard to future budget stuff? Okay, thanks. Steve.
You need that one. The items that I have on my wish list were 2023.
Oh, yeah, make sure you might sign.
There we go. Can you hear me now? All right.
It's gonna be on.
First item is vehicles. Each year it's usually 3 to 4 vehicles. Replacements based on mileage of cars that are at or exceeding 100,000 miles. Ford is the only game in town right now, the Explorer. We don't have the Dodge Charger to choose. So the lower dollar option isn't an option right now. So the Ford units are $55,000. That's upfitted and the previous model decommissioned. So that's all in per unit. The second thing is an update to our Kodi records management system. We've been using Kodi since 2012, and Kodi is releasing a new product called Kodi Pathfinder. Basically, what this will mean is it'll be an end of life at some point in time to our current Kodi product. That's not going to be on top of us even in a year or 2 years, I wouldn't imagine. But the Pathfinder product has a lot of new things that would help the police department do what it does in terms of time savings and things of that nature. And I would like to be able to consider that. There's a 3-year projected cost. The first year is $44,000. The second year is $36,500. And the third year is $38,000 for that Kodi Pathfinder. Third thing on my list is Taser replacement. We're currently using 2nd generation Tasers and they're at end of life. Taser, the company, is producing 7th generation Tasers right now. Taser units are about $1,500 a piece. We would need between 12 and 15, which puts us at $22,500 for replacing our Tasers. That does not include cartridges. So we would need to have cartridges because the cartridges won't work from the old Tasers to the new Tasers. And there would also need to be test cartridges or training cartridges, I should say. And I don't have a price on the cartridges. The fourth thing on my list is Bodie hits. We've been using Bodie hits for 3 years. We send DNA samples into this company and they create profiles for us. And then they hold all this information. It isn't just beneficial to East Lampeter, it's beneficial to any other police department in the nation that sends DNA samples to Bodie hits. It's the trending way of, especially with solving old crime, but also solving new crime. We currently put about $3,000 to $5,000 a year into this, which gives us about 25 to 35 samples. So they're about 115 a pop. I'd like to see that bump up to about 175 samples over the course of the year. That'd be about a $20,000 ticket item if we were to go that high. Of course, that's fluctuating. I mean, that could be brought down or negotiated or whatnot, but $115 a sample and times however many samples we would want to be sending in annually. And the last thing I'm bringing up is personnel. Not that we need personnel. I'm only down one person. That's not the point, but we're currently facing a situation that I haven't seen before. And that being that as of last Friday, the 12th, the county consortium had a grand total of 55 applications out, and only 38 of those had returned. This is compared to Dauphin County, who ran their consortium test in July. They had a total of 60 applications go out. These numbers will be compounded by the fact that you'll have a certain percentage of people that won't show to test and a certain percentage of people that are going to fail to test. And I would feel pretty confident standing here telling you that we're probably going to have less than 40 applicants complete the testing process for the county and over 20 police departments going after them very rapidly. Last year, I'll remind you, we washed out the first 10 applicants from our consortium list due to background situations. We ended up offering employment to numbers 11 and number 13. So even with those limited numbers, we still have issues getting qualified people. So my suggestion is that we advertise and we do our own hiring process, which would consist of getting applications in, and then we line up an interview process, we rank them in that process, and then we start going down the road of backgrounds and seeing who we have standing at the end and who we don't, and offer our one opening off of there. But then I would strongly urge you to consider offering more. I say that for a couple of reasons. One, we already have 3 people that are already on the drop. We're going to lose 1 in 23, 2 in 24. And beyond those 3 people, we have 14 employees who either can retire now or will be able to retire before the end of 27. That's a third of our agency.
3 and 14 people who could retire over the next
17.
36.
It's actually 17 people who can retire in the next, who can either retire right now or in the end of the next 5 years. And so this perfect storm that we're seeing happening across the nation and here locally too, with just not having people interested in getting into law enforcement. I'm just looking at this from the side. I'd rather, if possible, run fat for a little bit and allow attrition to allow those that are leaving to leave and have our manpower than to be running short and scraping to try and find somebody or find a qualifiable candidate that is increasingly more difficult to find. So.
Yeah,
Where do your demographics fit into that? I mean, we've got a potential of 17 over the next 36 months. What do you?
60.
So when is the last time that the township itself advertised and hired on their own? Were you involved in that
Yes.
process?
Definitely more than 5 years ago. I'm going to say it's
Okay.
closer to the 10-year mark. I would feel comfortable saying for the last 8 years, we've used the consortium solely. So I would say sometime beyond 8 years. Would you agree with that, Hutch?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a consortium, does the police department that have the greatest needs get the first pick?
No,
Okay.
no, the police department that grabs that list the minute that, when it comes to the chiefs. So I see the email, if I'm sitting in front of it and I get it and I open it up and bam, I grab some phones and I get a couple of people and we start calling people. To get them in here for interviews as quickly as we possibly can. Yeah.
Do you think,
Oh, sorry, keep going, Rich.
so you think I would perceive that if we advertise on our own, that we would probably get a good selection. Just knowing that East St. Peter Township, that we're actually looking at you as a potential employee rather than going through the consortium. Does the consortium hiring method scare off good candidates?
It scares off candidates who are currently employed and don't want to let their current chief or current board know they're looking somewhere else. And there are those people that are out there.
Okay,
They don't want to make a situation for themselves, let's say.
right.
So
Chief, how much is the academy?
the academy is about $6,500 plus the cost of a 1-year probation officer.
An incentive we should think about.
I wouldn't be prepared. You mean like a financial incentive? I'd like to try not doing that first and see how we do with the applications. But I would tell you to be prepared that we could end up having somebody at the top of the list who is not in the academy and needs to go. So we would need to pay for the academy and pay for their salary while they go. That used to be the standard 20 years ago, but
Well, I'm just worried about other departments going that direction. They know it was there before. It was common practice before. Now,
our biggest competition is other class 2 townships.
Right.
Your class 1 townships and your
Have
class
their own.
1 cities and boroughs all have to file civil service. So they've got to go, they have to go down through that, the civil service process. And while we have a policy that we have followed for years and years, we also have a caveat in there that says if the list is exhausted or we're not meeting hiring practices for one reason or another, then the board has the ability to approve myself to run an ad and gather applications and do an interview process and just start right there. Basically, what they're missing out on is a pre-physical test and a pre-written test. Now, they're still going to, if we hire them, they're still going to be physically challenged in the academy with plenty of written tests.
yeah.
So that's all I have.
Yeah, Chief, I received a Facebook sponsored post from Newark, Delaware Police Department. The salary, pension, no cost employee healthcare, hiring bonus of $10,000, entrance exams given weekly. So Manheim Township's using social media, Newark, I'm sure others as well. So
I would say, Steve, I'm concerned with you is that even though they're doing the math, like how I said 36 months, it's going 63 months. If you need 10 employees,
Yeah.
if you need 3 employees over the next 12 months, and you do 3 employees over the next 12 months.
Well, we did some advanced hiring last year and then we lost one of those advanced hiring. So
It didn't even last.
yeah,
yeah,
It didn't work.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you need 3 employees. You have to hire 3 over the next 12.
Yes,
One of them is 12 months from
right.
now. I get it. You need to have 3 employees. And I'm telling you, it's a 100 employee company, 100 employee company. I have 125 subcontractors. About 225 person. Literally every single day, my HR is doing everything we can. I just keep lining people up for us to talk to. And it's a challenge to find people. So I don't think you can link and then you want to just give the pedal to the metal and just keep bringing them. However you can do, I don't think you can rely upon this. I'm concerned about that.
Well, that's where I'm at. That's why.
And most other townships are moving away from the consortium anyway in Lancaster, so we're not the first mover there.
No. They're both of the Hempfields and there's 2 or 3 others, class 2 townships that have done what I'm suggesting we do. They've done it for the past 2 or 3 years. They've maintained an active membership in the consortium.
Right.
You know, so they have that to use, but they haven't actually used it as a hiring source.
I would say mix it up. And I'm just concerned about throwing it for them too. I am. You're competing with a lot of trade type of labor as well.
Yep.
You know, and I can tell you, as a person who hires trades, It's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's year round for us, but wintertime's the worst. I mean, people expect you to be out there salting and plowing, but when you're manpower short, and it's tough.
So, once again, I would do the same thing, whatever we can do, Ralph. Just every digital that we print out if possible.
Chief, one more budget question. If the law should change on radar, is that something else that kind of thinking about, or is that something we have to wait on?
Yeah, I actually have a radar gun in the budget for this year. So
Okay.
if the law does change, I'm ready to pull the trigger on that
Okay.
and get that out into the hands.
So
of
a
the
department of our size, how many would you need?
Good luck.
We probably want 3
Yeah.
with a 6-man
Okay.
shift,
Okay.
but 1 to start with would,
Yeah.
we're ready to go there. So
Right.
if it does change, yeah, we'll
Right.
grab a couple more.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I would add about the hiring, the current situation to sort of address Mike's question. A number of years ago, the state paid for police officer training. MOPEC had funding and that got covered. So we could hire somebody, send them up there. We had to pay them their ongoing pay and benefits, but the training was covered by the state. Then it went to 50% and then it went to nothing.
Right. State
If you have
representative.
any influence at MOPEC or
No,
anywhere
I don't
else
have any.
to,
Happy to bring it up at the next meeting.
the state only has a couple dollars in the account at this point, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. The other things that I would like to contribute to this discussion. We have been participating in the regional recreation effort, and that effort's got a draft agreement put together that we're asking everybody to take a look at. The next step in that process, if this moves forward, would be to hire a recreation director for the region. And each of the participants in the region would be contributing towards that effort. We would plan to apply for a grant to cover costs, some of the costs that are associated with that. It's a declining grant program, so it covers pay for the first year, then it goes down percentage until it's done after 4 years. So if there's going to be a commitment to that effort, there's going to have to be a budgetary commitment to go along with that.
Usually should be self-sustaining by that 3rd or 4th year, correct? Like, goal.
Yes, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yes, the intent, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there will always be, when you say self-sustaining, I think I would,
Close to break even.
I think the municipalities, the participants, if the school district's involved as well, I think there's always going to have to be some annual commitment
Mhm.
to dollars
Mhm.
going in, but hopefully that's an amount that can reach a point in time where it's flat and it continues to be a flat amount
Yeah.
going forward. But I think there'll always be something that everybody will have to contribute. We still have our Lincoln Highway Streetscape Plan projects that we're working through, phase 3. The RCAP project, the trail project from Strasburg to Oakview. We do some engineering assistance work for the Western Gateway project that PennDOT's doing. And we're still involved in the branding gateways and wayfinding effort, but if we're going to get the gateways up, that's going to require funding for that. Branding ongoing and wayfinding would be ongoing as well. Hopefully the Business Improvement District will get off the ground and can help us with those efforts as well. And we've got the Bridgeport Mobility Plan and the additional project that we propose to get some funding for, but there is a local match that would have to go along with that. So hopefully that'll be happening. The Heritage Pathway effort, we have a number of grant applications pending related to that, and that's a priority that you want to continue, that we're going to have to fund those things. We sort of mentioned the MS4 program, but that's certainly an ongoing with the various pollution reduction projects that Colin mentioned. We did talk about, this is sort of a smaller expense, but we did talk about doing some improvements here in the meeting room for sound and video. So that is something that'll need to get funded. We had a community survey in the budget this year. Quite honestly, the costs associated with what we were looking at are much higher than we thought they were going to be. So we're sort of regrouping a little bit to see how we can do that. But then looking forward to doing that on an ongoing basis will require some funding. And we've got the ARPA dollars. So the last time we talked about that, the board indicated that you wanted to do that as part of the 23 process. Two of the bigger things that we talked about as part of that were replacing the HVAC system here in this building and dealing with the funding for the fire apparatus replacement program, which we didn't fully fund over the last few years. So catching up there to some extent. So there's a lot on our plate, but I wanted to go over those things. And, as board members have other ideas, obviously we want to hear those. And, what priority you want to attach to these and whatever other ideas come out.
The last two. Young people, you get nothing done. You just don't. And more you have to recruit and train and let go, recruit, train, it sucks up so much energy. But I sort of solid waste authority. My own organization. It's the thing that we focus on most because it's where you get the best return on investment. It's the people that you hire. So I just interested in how important that is.
And I would have to say, the fire companies are utilizing some new approaches to getting the word out, including the newsletter here. But the school district has been very open to communications, and their weekly newsletter comes out every Thursday, 5,000 emails. I certainly think some other things could happen. I know the fire department, fire companies are looking at a club. I know we've had that in the past, a police-based law enforcement safety club. I think those are things. But Charlie, I think that could also be just knowing the students that are there and the different directions they're going at as you and I were talking, well, how old do you need them? Well, you could bring an 18-year-old in, start to learn. And there are those students who could be, interested in that. That's why I already talked to one of the teachers about doing the same kind of tour I did. They were like, we need to get these high school kids in here to see, because the way you have it set and I just know there's some kids that see that and say, I could see myself doing that. And
I was going to ask if you reached out to anybody. over
yeah,
there.
yeah, they're interested. Now it's hard to find everybody in the summer, but they're back next week.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
We're ready to talk.
Nice. Your thoughts about all the items that you put out there, priorities, things you want to prioritize, you want to add to what we just talked about.
I got a couple quick thoughts. The big one, this goes back to the recreation planning as well, but I know the county just released they haven't had one before, but they now have a capital improvement budget. I think that'd be a great one for us to look at capital improvements over what's our 5 and 10-year plan for just capital improvements, whether it's roads. We've got some of those plans already. It's a matter of sort of putting them all together and saying, what's our long-term capital improvement budget? Couple issues that have come up sort of in the last month or two is if we're looking at potentially increasing the code enforcement or inspections of buildings in our township, is that going to be internal staff time or is that going to be third party? I think we should probably look at what the budgetary implications are of that. Similarly, if we're looking at additional street cleaning efforts, as we're working on the streetscape plan, other areas, what are we doing to keep those areas clean and free of rubbish or litter on an ongoing basis? Again, that's more staff time. Public Works, do they need to add personnel? And then we have our fire and emergency services folks. What can we do? And this is where I'd love to get the ESC's recommendations, but they've come with some recommendations of what things can the township do that frees up their time to focus on firefighting. And those may be little things like, can we help with their plant maintenance? When it's hard to get folks on a truck to go fight a fire, it's a little harder to get them to go ride a lawnmower for 3 hours as opposed to when their own lawn is overgrown with grass. So are there ways that we can help supplement some of the plant maintenance? Can we increase the general contribution to the fire companies? Can we look at increasing our apparatus replacement contribution as well? I think those discussions, I think, should be part of this budget process, as well as our EMS services. What can we do both with our direct contributions, but also to encourage them and help those folks out who are on the front lines, so to speak. So those are the big ones. It was, I think, part of this year's budget as it's been for the last 6 years, but where are we at with E-code?
We submitted everything from 2013 to E-code and lined up with a process and we're finalizing that to that. The estimate came in higher than what we budgeted for this year. However, the way they laid out the schedule, we can most likely get everything done by May of next year. Again, that's nothing that has happened since the August 1st meeting.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having that. And then similar to the survey, but what is our communication plan? Do we have to rely on the school board to send an email out when most other townships can send out emails to their residents or communicate on social media? What's our plan to, if we want to be actively engaging with our community, what is our plan to talk to them directly and get feedback from them? And what's the budget implications if we were to do that well, or just at the level that our surrounding townships do?
Good discussion. I appreciate the early heads up, especially as a new board member, just to, get a better scope.
Yeah, I agree. This should help the rest of the process. I like the document that lists out the dates, and this should help you guys and also help us figure out where to tell you to focus. But a lot of areas, a lot of focus areas, a lot of priorities, so I think we need to provide you help with that.
Thanks for your input, and you never start too early working on the budget.
That was the intention for us doing this. We felt that trying to do things the last quarter can be intense for all of us. And this gives us a couple of months to chew on some more things, to give you more feedback on some of the specifics. So I appreciate the effort, all of you. Thank you. I want last words to be that I really think it's time for us to think a little old in East Lampere Township. I think we're a good individual. I'm not saying we're going to go to the public with significant tax increase to pay for things that are a waste of their dollars and not worth the return on investment. But we continue to look at some significant projects in this community, and I think we need some personnel. I think we need some you need more resources to deliver on some of these things. Some of it may be creative. I think we're just talking about things like sharing staff between the township and the fire companies to do some things, or you're outlining the region and sharing staff between townships. We're doing it. We've done it with our coordinator outside the box. Really getting outside the box. And I think if we think we can do this without adding some staff, I think it's just not really possible. Ethan mentioned, inspections. Possibilities. You know, it may not be our stuff, may not be personal, may not be butts and seats here. It may be, dollars that we put into the budget to purchase third-party services. But I just think there's that much coming at this municipality that just doesn't, it doesn't allow for us to address those adequately with staff level, would have to take the fund and tax. I don't know whether it is, I think the best people ask the people to do work and find out where they've fallen short and look at expectations. Coming back to the board with the budget that reflects that. We don't you don't want us to sit and say, but you guys do the work. Tell us what resources you need to deliver upon expectations. And we'll have to be the ones who decision. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Okay. Is there a motion for now?
So moved.
Second.
Ethan and Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you.